I think it's fair to say that we live in a world at war. There's conflict and strife between people and people groups, within families, within countries, between nations and kingdoms. In fact, Jesus at one point told his disciples in Matthew 24, he says, "Nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world." And he's telling them about what it will be like before the coming of his kingdom. But notice what he says after what I just read. He says, but all of this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. And we need to recognize that what we see even in our world today are exactly that. They're birth pains. And more to come. Now, I don't know when the Lord's coming. Nobody knows the day or the hour. Certainly we can look at seasons and get a sense that things are getting close. And I'm one of those people that thinks that the time is drawing near. And so we ought to be prepared, and we ought to have our minds looking up, because our salvation may in fact be drawing near. But I want us to remember that as Jesus was preparing his disciples, they were all gathered together after they had that Last Supper, as we often call it, that Passover meal. They didn't completely understand what all was going on that night, and Jesus taught them a lot of really important stuff that night. But one of the things that we need to walk away with there is what he told me. He says, in this world, and John 16 records this, in this world you will have tribulation, he says. But take heart. In me, you may have peace. Now, I've got to tell you, when I first read that, I was really struck by the verbs that he was using there, because he said, you may have peace in me. Well, because he said we will have tribulation, but we could only may have peace. What's going on there? Well, the reality is that trials and tribulations in this world, that's a given. You don't get any choice in that matter. But whether we are at peace because we're in Christ, see, that's up to us. See, that's a gift that God gives to us if we choose to receive it. We can choose, if we want, in the midst of trial and tribulation, to be worried and scared and afraid. And hey, I'm just like everybody else. Those things affect me. They bother me. They start coming in. But I bring myself back to this point, and I'm reminded of the words of Jesus. In me, you may have peace. In fact, he goes on, he says, take heart, because I have overcome the world. See, I serve the champion. I serve the victor. I'm loved by the one who has conquered it all. And so are you if you're in Christ. And that's the place that we need to rest. As we see even our nation doing things that would lead, it would seem, to greater and greater levels of conflict, we need to remember who ultimately is on the throne and who our King is. And King Jesus has already been victorious. Sin and death have been defeated by him on the cross. And you and I can rest in knowing, even though there might be trial and tribulation in this world, not might be, there will be, right? That in the midst of that we can be at peace, because Christ has got us. God has got us. We're covered. We have nothing to fear. All we have to do is walk out our life in him and speak to people, give them the hope that we have, remind them of what Jesus has done, and encourage them to walk in peace with him as well. Because that's something that we all have a unique, special privilege of doing, is sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and what he's done for all of us. May we walk and may we live in his peace.